share my screen. Should only take about 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll leave it open for questions. And let's make sure we can do this. And can everybody see that? Nico, can you give me a thumbs up?
Yep, you're awesome.
Perfect, wonderful. Well, thank you again. Just as a quick introduction, my name is Robert Morier. I'm a professor at the Charles D. Close School of Entrepreneurship here at Drexel University. This is actually my third year at Drexel as well. So as soon as I started 3 years ago, I was asked to do this presentation. It's a Sanseal, so you were actually one of my first assignments. So I'm proud to be doing it still. And what we're going to be doing today really is planning for business success. And I can't emphasize enough how important planning is when you're setting out a budget, particularly with an early stage business like the ones that you're presenting as part of this competition. So structured planning really makes all the difference. There's an old saying that failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And in finance, particularly in entrepreneurship, the budget is really kind of the core of that process. So we're going to try to help you through some of that over the next 15 to 20 minutes or so. Just a quick look who I am. When I used to wear a suit, I worked in finance for 25 years in a variety of different roles, primarily on the investment side. I also did some business development, so I helped companies raise money for their organizations, so helping them with presentations and asset gathering as it related to taking their business forward. I saw the light about 2.5, 3 years ago. I left the industry, started teaching with Drexel University. I also co-founded my own company. So I know very well what this is like for you all, particularly trying to set out a budget. Ironically, I was someone who evaluated budgets for 20 plus years, but I'd actually never really put one together for my own company until about 3 or 4 years ago. And then since then, I've been in the weeds of it, but it's a lot of fun for me. So my email address is here. I really encourage all of you to email anytime. I'm always available if there's anything I can do. This is not a classroom, but the extra credit assignment is to link in with me on LinkedIn. I encourage you to stop by as well. So if I can ever make any introductions for you, please let me know. So the benefits of a budget. There are a lot of bullet points. As I mentioned before, there are going to be a lot of words in this presentation. But in my opinion, the two most important are your plan for the future and increasing your motivation. The budget really helps you think about tomorrow. And that's critically important when you're starting a business because you're going to need money for tomorrow. But when we're starting a business on day one, we're kind of mired in day one. It's hard to look, past it's hard to see the forest through the trees when you're kind of grinding out, this entrepreneurial effort while you're doing your day-to-day jobs. So it really helps you kind of increase that motivation when you're keeping what I call that financial journal, which is this 1-year budget that you're being asked to present. So these are some of the things that you want to include in your plan. I won't read them, through bullet point by bullet point, but generally you want to be listing out what are those objectives and goals for the year ahead? Where are your costs going to be? And how much money will you generally be having to work with? So it's really a summary of your financial performance and those forecasts as it relates to the business that you're looking to put forward. So what we're going to be looking at today is how to create a budget. What are the most important aspects within that budget that you need to be focusing on? So we're going to begin by asking 3 key questions. What are the projected sales for the budget period? So this is going to be 1 year, but we want to be conservative. This is the first time that you may be launching this business. So the truth is you don't know. You don't know what sales are going to look like. You don't know really what your costs are going to look like, but you're going to give it your best estimate as to what you think those dollar figures are going to be. The direct costs of sales. So how much do the materials cost that you're going to need depending on your business? I'm not 100% sure what all of your businesses are, but let's say if it's software based or technology based, and at some point you're going to require an app or an application, how much is it going to cost for someone to do that for you? And then I doubt any of you are going to be setting up an office on day one, but maybe you'll have a printer, maybe you'll have a computer. Those are going to be fixed costs. Once you buy it, it's there. It shouldn't cost you anything else going forward, but it's going to be important to account for those, particularly when we start putting together our balance sheet. So we're going to want to keep those estimates and predictions conservative, as I mentioned before, As I also said, this is really an opportunity for you to be able to keep track of where you were spending and where you think spending is going to be going forward. But again, try to be as conservative as possible. So what are those things that you're going to need to include? And we're going to go through this in some detail in a few minutes, but you're going to need a projected cash flow. These are going to be your cash budget projects for future cash position on a month-by-month basis. And typically those costs of your business are going to come in three sorts. Those are going to be your fixed costs, right? That's going to be your rent, your salaries. If you're financing anything, maybe equipment, your variable costs. Those are going to be materials that you may need depending on what you're creating. And then some of those one-off capital costs. Ultimately, we're going to be looking at revenues, and those forecasts are typically based on a combination of your sales history as well as how effective you expect your future efforts to be. So again, that's thinking about what that future is going to look like. So making sure you're being mindful of the next day and not just today. Let's see here. Oh, did I freeze? No. There we go. All right, so we're going to start to do. Before we do this, I want to show you something and just a quick tool. Let's see if I can do this quickly. Nico, can you see my website, or do I need to stop sharing and share a new screen?
Share a new screen.
Okay, no problem. Stop sharing, give me this, and I'll come back to it. Share again. Window. All right. All right, so for everyone looking, this is a relatively new tool, which I'm sure at this point, all of you have heard of, but this is ChatGPT. This is artificial intelligence that allows you to be able to talk to this program and ask it for help. So the reason I'm showing you this is because, unfortunately, you're getting a 30-minute presentation. You do have my email, but I do think it's a great tool. Damien and I know very well, almost all of our students are using this at this point. So we're actually working with them, trying to show them how to use this in a way that really helps them be able to address the problems that they're having with their company in a more efficient way. So for the purposes of this quick demonstration, I just wanted to show you how I would be using this. This is the presentation that I'm presenting to you right now. I'm uploading it into ChatGPT. I'm going to press the arrow. It's going to talk to me. It's going to actually, this is how quickly it's reading this presentation and summarizing what I'm going to be talking about today. You can tell it's a lot of information. I'm going to stop it and I'm going to ask it, please help my nursing friends create a budget. Now you can get much more specific, but this is going to be an example of how programs like this can help you create a step-by-step guide on how to create a budget. So if there are any questions that you have around definitions, you can see here it's even showing you a template. It's an incredibly useful tool, particularly for our entrepreneurs who are generally working as solo operations. It's just you've got a full-time job, so you're trying to create efficiencies wherever you can. And you can see it's quite comprehensive, but you never want to take its word for exactly what it says, because there are still some issues with some of the information that comes out of it, but it's a very effective tool and something that we're all using more often than we like to admit. Damien, I'm sure you are as well. I know I am in my business. So I stop sharing. I'm going to share the presentation again. We go back to Windows. All right, and we're going to start from here. All right, so thanks for bearing with that quick example. So we're going to go through some of the basics of financial statements. So it's not quite the fall yet, as we know, we're just starting out in the summer, but I went to school in Vermont, so I can never stop thinking about the fall and apple picking. So I always like to say, imagine your business is a tree, but it's a fruit-bearing tree, like an apple tree. So this is going to be each of your businesses, no matter what you do, right? And it's a beautiful, healthy tree, but we need it to grow some apples. And those apples are going to be your income statement. That's going to measure the fruits of your business efforts. So depending on how many apples you grow, that's going to be your income. So like a tree, your business produces an annual yield, and that gets reset every year. In this case, obviously, it's a tree, so it would be more seasonal, but you're going to be thinking about it on a one-year basis. It's an annual budget. So the income statement is going to start at 0 at the beginning of each year, and it's going to measure that annual yield. This is what it looks like. when you actually put it out into a standard income statement for your business at year end. Now, many of your businesses probably aren't generating any revenue or income at this point, but it's a good way to look at what it might look like as you go forward. So your profits are essentially your revenue less your expenses. There's your revenue up top. So in this case, this is Olive Tree Winery. So they're making the good stuff. They're making wine. This is how much they're selling on an annual basis. You can see 2009, the most recent year, is to the left side. The past year end is the 2008 to the right side, the far right column. These were the expenses for the year. So you can see they have sales, but the sales are going to be the people that are out there selling their wine, not how much they were selling in wine total. That's the wine sales up above under revenue. They're paying for marketing, salary, wages, rent. That's that fixed cost, utilities, and then there's their overall operating expenses. So the bottom line is going to be the revenue less the expenses, and that's going to give them their net income for the year.
Hey, Rob,
So
Rob.
Yeah.
But it looks like we have someone in the chat that can't see your screen. Can you share your screen again?
Sure. I'm going to stop sharing and I'll share it again. Was everyone else, were you seeing it there, Damien? Just want to make sure it was.
I could see it.
No problem.
I can see
Okay,
it.
great.
Be Rob,
Nico, were you seeing it? Okay.
Yeah, I was able to see your screen.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll go back one. Here we are. All right, so if that person could give the thumbs up to Damien or Nico, this is the Olive Tree Winery income statement again. If we're good, okay.
Looks like she's good.
Take that. All right, good. I'll take it. Thank you so much. All right. So at the end of each year, the net earnings, our net income, is going to be added to the retained earnings, and that's going to go on our balance sheet. And we're going to take a look at the balance sheet here in a second. The balance sheet, the best way to think about your balance sheet is essentially the trunk of the tree. So if you slice open the trunk of that tree, you're going to see all of those lines. And as you might remember, if you cut a tree open, the number of lines represents the age of the tree. So each of those lines are going to be each year of the life of the company. There are going to be some lean years, right, with little or no net income. That might be a thinner line, but there are going to be some strong years as well with those thicker lines. And that's going to where you're going to have plentiful net income. So essentially, those rings are like the equity section of the balance sheet. And so, hold on one second. This is my 7-year-old. Yes. They're downstairs. I'll come get them in 1 minute. Okay, I'll be right there. All right, hold on 1 second. I'm so sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Just some food. All right, sorry about that. So that's my 7-year-old daughter, Margot. So those rings are like the equity section of the balance sheet. So the balance sheet is essentially going to be a picture in time. It's going to measure the cumulative results of our business efforts. And ultimately, it's going to sustain the business over the long haul. So those roots of the tree, even when there's not as much apples as we would like, are going to keep this business going. And that tree can't bear fruit without that strong chunk. So that's going to be the balance sheet. So the business can't produce an annual net income without that solid balance sheet. And the balance sheet is going to measure what we owe and what we own. So what we own are our assets, and what you owe are our liabilities. So it's just like balancing a checkbook, right? We have $1,500 in our checking account, but we have $1,300 in bills that we know are going out every month. So our assets, the $1,500 minus our liabilities, $1,300 leaves us with $200 on our balance sheet, or that's going to be, in this case, our equity. So the equity section on the balance sheet is going to be the difference between our assets and liabilities. So this is what the balance sheet looks like for that same company. This is Olive Tree Winery again. So the equity equals our assets minus liability. So here are all our assets. So the wine inventory, our property, equipment, these are all things that have value. Now, there is sometimes some debate as to whether or not your inventory is an asset or a liability. Now, in the case of this company, their wine inventory is looked at as an asset. at least 2008 to 2009 because it's been generating sales. It looks like pretty consistently. In fact, it's been increasing year over year. But when you're starting out a new business and you're uncertain about sales, I always encourage our students to be a little bit careful about the inventory that they may have, particularly if they're selling a good or an item, because sometimes those assets can very quickly turn into a liability, particularly if you can't sell them. So the liability and equity, the section below, that's going to be what we owe. Those are our liabilities. Let's see what's happening here. I keep freezing. There we go. And then ultimately, that's going to give us our accumulated earnings when we look at the assets less the liabilities. We don't have to worry about stockholder equity today, but it's just here for you just as a lesson. But what's most important, and we'll talk more about this over the next few slides, is the importance of cash. So without water, no tree can survive for very long. So the cash flow statement is effectively where the water goes in our business. So it goes up the tree, feeds those leaves, feeds those apples. And what we want to know is how much cash is being consumed by our income statement. So our income statement is, as I mentioned before, right? It's the trees and the apples that we're yielding. And we want to know how much cash is being consumed and growing the balance sheet. So the cash flow statement connects the income statement to the balance sheet. So it's essentially connecting our apples to our roots, to our trunk of our tree. So once again, just as a quick reminder, there's our income statement up above. That's the apple and the yield. Thank you. Thank you. My daughter's giving me a kiss. That's our balance sheet. And then the statement of cash flows, which flows through. So this real success in business, as I always like to say to our students, it requires a focus on all three of these statements: the income statement, the balance sheet, and the statement of cash flow. So it allows us to answer the questions: where does the money come from? And where does the money go? So we don't have to get too much into this. We'll just quickly take you through where it was before, what makes up a cash flow statement, which you don't have to get into too much in this activity. But as you're thinking about your budget, it's important to know the cash flows that what makes up the cash flow statement are cash flows from operating activities, cash flows from investing activities, cash flows from financing activities. You add all those up together, and there's either going to be an increase or decrease in your cash at the end of the year. So you add into your beginning cash balance, and that gives you your ending cash balance. So in summary, there are three financial statements that I want you to remember. Refer back to this presentation anytime for a quick refresher, but that's your income statement. That's the revenue we generated, the money we spent, and then our profit or loss that we made. The balance sheet, it's what we own versus what we owe. So that's the assets and liabilities. And then finally, that cash flow statement, where our cash came from, where our cash went, and how much we have left. So here an example of some of those fixed costs and overhead costs that you may be incurring as a result of starting your business. These should seem pretty obvious. If you have any questions after the fact, like I said, please email me. Here's a quick summary of what those expenses could look like. Here's a quick action plan for you, and I think this is really important. This really serves some more useful functions. So your budget is essentially going to be an indicator of those costs and revenues linked to each of your activities that you're going to be doing within your business. It's also a great benchmark. It allows you to benchmark your performance, right? If we go back to that either income statement or balance sheet statement for the winery, we can see year over year how we're doing. We're either having a good year, a bad year. And, as we grow as a business, as your businesses grow and age over time, which I hope very successfully, you're going to be able to see where some of those key performance indicators are coming from, where are those key drivers of your business. So for example, if the costs that you're incurring in sales and marketing are growing each year, but your sales of the wine are decreasing, it's a good indicator that maybe your sales and marketing plan is not working as effectively as you would like it. So it allows you to think about ways that you can operate your business based on one of the or two of the three of those financial statements. You also want to review your budget every year. So you're going to be looking at your actual income, your actual expenditures. And you're always going to want to make sure that you're making time for budgeting, you're creating realistic budgets. As I mentioned before, I can't stress that enough. All of us are very excited about our businesses in the very beginning. I remember when I was laying out my budget for the media company that I launched, I thought that I was going to be, winning six-figure contracts with media companies out of the gate. The reality was my budget was about $2,500. So it's good to go in a little bit more conservatively. It's also helpful for people to see what you're thinking in terms of where the business could go relative to where it is today in reality. And the last thing I always like to say is involve the right people. And this is really advice for any aspect of your business, particularly as you're getting it off the ground. Friends and family are wonderful. They're going to be your biggest support system for most of us. They're a shoulder to lean on. But they tend to be very supportive, and they give us what we kind of call a halo effect, right? That we can't do wrong. Everything that we're putting forward looks wonderful. So as best as you can, try to find sources who can give you a more discerning look of your business relative to the budget that you're putting forward. I wouldn't worry about this today, but some of you may have multiple revenue lines for your business. So your budgets may need budgets. So it's just good to know that you don't have just one necessarily, you could have multiple. That's great. And here are some of the benefits of budgeting over time. And that is our presentation for you. I'll introduce you to Margot, since she's been standing here the whole time. Come on over here, Margot, because this is the Band-Aid that she asked for around slide 10. So for our nurses, I don't know if that was a good application. These are all nurses I'm talking to. So this is working from home. Things have not ended since COVID. And thank you so much for the presentation. So you have a copy of the presentation. I'm always available. I've been available, as Nico knows very well, all the time for all of you. I'm so proud of what you're doing, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Rob. Always lovely having you join us, and nice to meet you, Margot. All right. Up next, Damien, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Nico, and thanks, Rob. I've seen that presentation too, Rob, and I remember you kind of doing creating it. And every time I watch it, right, haven't seen budgets obviously a lot. There's still little pieces that you can gain. So even if you're a veteran with looking at budgeting and financial planning, there's always little nuggets that you can pull out to use. And I did again. So Rob, thank you for that. And that's going to be the case here when we start talking about a competitive analysis. Some of this material may be, yeah, I knew that, I understood that, but maybe perhaps hearing it differently today, or hearing it in the context of what the goal for you, the outcome for you, may provide some additional areas for growth. And so thank you again to Nico. When he said, hey guys, we're doing this again, this was an incredible, easy yes. I look forward to this all day today. Fridays for me are quite busy. So this is just great to be with you all. So with that, let me hopefully share my screen, and let's talk about conducting a competitor analysis. All right, what's this say here? Share content. All righty, window, let's see. It's not allowing me to share it. Nope. It says I need to launch it. It says I need permissions, Nico. Let me just check here really quick and see if my settings are set correctly. It's taken, the pinwheel is moving around here, so I apologize for the slow service I may be having here right now. Alrighty. Nico, how about, would it be possible for you to share it? I think it may be easier at this point. It doesn't look like that. Yeah, I apologize for that.
No worries. I can share it, and I believe I can give you access to run it. So okay. Let me just pull this up for you 1 second.
So yeah, and again, I have maybe, I think 9 or so slides that I'll run with you, and you'll have these slides. Everybody has these slides as well. So you'll have that. And so Nico, let me see if I can drive, and if so, then I'll just drive this thing. I'm pressing. I don't see anything that's moving just yet. What if I did this? Oh, that's just zooming in. So Nico, if you just want to advance, that's fine.
Sure. You tell me when.
Yep, go for it. And so just a quick introduction on who I am. And you have my contact information here up as well. So please, as Rob mentioned, we are most available to you to continue the discussion in these areas, because we're gonna just touch on it for the brief 20 minutes. So you have my contact information there, and I'm a professor at Drexel at the Close School. I'm also the associate dean for partnerships. And what I teach in the curriculum is a 10-week accelerator course, which is the capstone course for all of our undergraduates. And a competitive analysis is a big part of that. I've been doing that for 10 years with the students, which is just a wonderful part of it. I also teach incumbents, employees, on how to accelerate ideas internally within their organizations. I do that through my partnerships. I'm also the co-founder of GREW, which is a therapy for entrepreneurs that we launched in 2022. I'm a partner at Open Mind Psychological, and we're a full-service psychological organization in 30 states with a focus specifically with supporting our community here in the southeastern Pennsylvania area. I spent 23 years at a company called Horizon House, and I was an HR director there. Really, I mean, my focus there was really helping Horizon House scale to what it ultimately became a 1,000 employees and about $100 million not-for-profit in the Philadelphia area. I am a contributor, brand new contributor, in fact, to Psychology Today. My columns really talk about the future of work and the intersection of entrepreneurship and psychology. The next column is actually going to be dropping in the next couple of days. And then I did some pro bono work for FSVC in North Africa and helping companies, their startup companies, specifically work with growing their companies. And competitive analysis was also a big part of that. So let's get right into it. So that's a little bit about me, and I apologize if the dog's going to bark. Everybody has their stuff going on. Mine's the dog. So I really wanted to start with this slide here. It's just a great quote. And it says that financial planning, there's no doubt about an important thing. Budgeting, there's no doubt, is the cornerstone, as Rob mentioned, to really understanding the levers in running a business efficiently. But a competitive analysis, you really need to really do a competitive analysis to understand the sustainability of the growth trajectory that you're on and the success that you have within your organization or the idea that you're doing. It's crucial that you do a competitive analysis, therefore, to understand how to impact your customers, how to grow, how to reach your customers, and how to retain. Next slide. Let's get into the details on exactly that. So, the importance of a competitive analysis. It's important for strategic planning. It helps you understand the market threats and opportunities for long-term business success. It allows you to benchmark, right? It gives you a performance against your competitors. It allows for innovation. You identify the gaps between what your competitors are doing or what the market's not meeting, and you potentially fill that gap. And then risk management. You look at everybody, what they're doing, and you can kind of see what mistakes they've made. Perhaps it can mitigate the risks that you're going to be doing in building out this and building out the idea that you have. Next slide. And so here are the key components of a competitive analysis. And again, you've probably seen these, and I apologize for the misalignment there with that. We'll fix that. But a SWOT analysis, something that perhaps some of you've done, specifically though, and Rob kind of mentioned it, which is great because I've done budgets, taught budgets, but running your own budget's a whole thing. I'm sure you've seen a SWOT analysis or done one for a case study or whatnot. Doing a SWOT analysis specifically for your competitors to tie it to the outcomes of your business takes on a different mindset. So what's a SWOT analysis? It identifies the strengths, weaknesses, and threats for each competitor. A product service analysis evaluates the features, the benefits, the pricing, the value prop. Market positioning really assesses the competitor's brand strengths and market share. The marketing and sales strategy examine the marketing channels, and the competitor identification, you figure out what the direct and indirect and substitutes. And let's go into these individually, in fact. Advance, please, sir. SWOT analysis. So when you do a SWOT analysis, it really helps you better understand the strategic position of your competitors and where you can gain that advantage. You do that by looking at their strengths, and I'm not going to read all of this here, but you identify their unique capabilities or their resources. You identify their weaknesses, and perhaps that's where you find some opportunities when you look at those weaknesses that pinpoint the areas where they may be failing their customers, right? The opportunities are those areas that could grow within that organization, or perhaps they're not necessarily meeting, and you find that opportunity there. Threats are external factors like regulations that we are very familiar with, or technological disruptions that could pose that risk, right? So understanding this can help understand a competitive advantage and what that competitive advantage hopefully is. Next slide. Product and service analysis is, when you look at the product and services, you can hopefully better understand the strengths and weaknesses, but hopefully you can differentiate your products and services by understanding a little bit more about what your competitors are doing. So what are their features? An analysis of the key features, the functionality of those features, what's their pricing model? Do they bundle stuff? Are they, any promotional stuff that they're using? What's their value proposition? And how can you get that information? And we'll talk a little bit more about how you can find this stuff in a slide or two. But really understanding what their value proposition, what makes them different, or what they're promising is to their consumers or their customers, could really gain some insights for you. And then their quality and performance. What's their perceived reliability and what they're trying to achieve, and how can you evaluate that? Next slide. The market positioning is understanding, the crucial strategies that they position themselves with their customers that you can gain some knowledge on. So what's their market share? You want to examine that to find out what that is. And there are places that you can do that. I'll talk about that in a second. Brand recognition, you've got to evaluate their brand strength related to, their brand image and reputation and customer loyalty, their customers' perception, how customers perceive their products and services, including quality, value, and customer service. And then their competitive positioning is to identify how competitors position themselves in the market, which includes that value proposition within that positioning. Next slide is the marketing and sales strategies. And so here, you can hopefully gain some insights on how your competitors acquire, how they, get leads, how they bring customers onto their platform or their service, but also how they retain them, how they keep them. Do they do that through promotional tactics, and how? They use advertising. What's their advertising like? What's their social media like? What are their customer acquisition strategies? Like, do they generate leads? Do they buy them, right? Do they go out there and generate them? And do they go to, different, networking events, perhaps, for that? Customer retention strategies, or how do they build loyalty? Loyalty programs, I'm sure we're all familiar with, and that we're all probably a part of. Ultimately, to reduce that churn or that turnover, if you will, within customers, or customers that use your product once and don't come back. That's the whole idea around around churn. And then what their ongoing communications are. And then their sales channels. How do they reach their customers? Is it, in e-commerce? Is it a physical store? Is it both? Which a multi-channel customer acquisition is obviously something that's growing and continues to grow. So next slide. So your competitor identification, and this is where you identify, and a lot of us, when we start looking at specifically, when we're looking directly at competitors, some of us tend to not necessarily find them. And generally speaking, that may be the case, that you may not have a direct or even an indirect competitor. Substitutes, finding something that's, that could be substituted for your thing. I'm sure you can find in every instance a substitute. But in my general opinion, you want to find a direct competitor. You want to find someone who's doing what you're doing. Again, it's so new and it's so novel and unique. It's a brand new invention that nobody ever has done before, and you're not going to have any competitors. Substitutes you probably will have. But direct competitors are companies that offer similar products or services and compete for the same market. Indirect are companies that offer alternatives that can satisfy the same customer needs. And substitutes are products and services that can fill the same customer needs of your offerings, but through different means, right? And so you, through your competitive analysis, you want to find some of this, hopefully find some of these individuals that fit within these buckets there, ultimately to understand what they're doing or not doing for you to fill that need. Next slide. Here are the methods, right? And so I try to put this in one slide. Again, you're going to have this and you can reflect to this. But generally speaking, you know, when you do a market analysis, it falls into two big buckets. There's this primary research. Primary research is research that you go out there and create and gather the data for, and it's your research and you own it. You're going to the primary sources for the information. Secondary research is going to secondary sources and like databases or Google or even ChatGPT, as I think Rob just showed us right there, right? But public sources are ways to gather information, right? So you can go to company websites, go to press releases, financial reports, and news articles. Believe it or not, those are, you know, we have access at Drexel, and I'm not sure if some of us here have access to academic business databases, business intelligence databases. They're clearly very rich in information, but so are these public resources. Believe it or not, you can find a lot of information through press releases and financial reports, news articles, et cetera, through there. Excuse me, my puppy's biting me. Can you please stop biting me? We're having fun here on a Friday. Customer feedback. Again, another great place to go out and source information is all that stuff that we just talked about in terms of pricing, in terms of how do they get customers and how do they retain customers. You can go online and check out reviews, social media comments, customer surveys. That's really, again, if you want to get some of that primary research, go out and conduct your own surveys with the customers that you find through some of your competitors' areas. That's very common. Market research reports, that's that secondary place I mentioned to you, where you can have, if you do have access to some of these industry databases that provide, you know, information to that, that's a great place to go. But white papers are also public. Some of them are in-depth case studies, as well as consumer behaviors websites that you can find. Benchmarking tools. There's some great benchmarking tools out there that you see. I've listed a couple there for you. Google Trends is very, very useful and very common for us to check out, but there are some other websites there. Mystery shopping. I'm not sure if anybody's ever done that. Again, you want to talk about some primary research and rich primary research. You know, there's so many different factors and pluses and minuses to both primary and secondary research. Of course, when you're asking someone a question or directly with a survey, you gain direct knowledge, but observation is something that entrepreneurs, I think, don't do enough of and understand the power. And mystery shopping can really allow us to observe what customers are doing within that competitor's product or service. And then networking, going to these different events and doing heavy networking could also provide incredibly rich and useful a competitive analysis sourcing for that. Next slide. And so this is the last slide. And the last slide talks about applying these insights. Okay, so we talked about where to go for these this information. We talked about the importance of gathering this information, but we need to make sure that it kind of connects to what you're doing. And so when I say that, the best competitive analysis that I've seen, and I've evaluated so many, really tie in strategically to what you're trying to achieve. That is, information for information's sake, showing the market analysis and showing the different types of customers, et cetera, if it's not specifically strategically aligned to your business strategy, then you may miss an opportunity for you to advance your idea and kind of grow your company, right? So those strategic adjustments really are important to taking the information that we're applying here and apply it specific to your startup. Product development, innovate, or improve your products. Hopefully you can take this information and not only gather the secondary and primary research, but gather it for a better product market fit. And then understanding marketing tactics, how to attract your customers, where to find them, but ultimately also how to retain them through customer engagement. You can enhance your customer experience by understanding what your customers are doing or what the competition or what that industry is doing. Really understand, you know, how to engage your customers even better. So, with that said, that is it. And I'm gonna, since we're showing our babies, I'll show you my baby. Here's the baby. Here he is. It's incredible, and we're empty nesters, and so this is our new baby. His name is Yapito.
Well, hello, Yapito, and thank you so much, Damien, for that incredible presentation. Today, we're really, you know, two incredible presentations, our budget and this new competitive analysis one. So thank you both again for joining us as our partners in this. And we'll be sure to share both presentations and have them available for download on the NurseHack4Health website. And of course, we'll be following up with subsequent communication also to the recordings for this. At this time, if anybody has any questions regarding either the budgeting or competitive analysis, if you just want to jump off of mute, or if you want to share them in the chat.
Hi, I had a question. Is there anything that the program runners are looking for specifically in the budget as in terms of line items?
Great question, Sarah. Yes, so within the pitch template that is mandatory, we did provide you a sample of what that looks like in terms of the line items. So both indirect and direct costs. I do, as part of our information session PowerPoint that we have following this these two sessions, we can take a little bit of more of a deeper dive into some of the sample line items we have. But ultimately, those will depend based off of your solution, which departments you're actually working with within your institution, or if you're working across various hospitals within the same health system.
Great, thank you.
Of course. And I know we had 2 master classes today, so if anything does come to mind, I did drop in the chat our support@nursehack4health.org email address. So please feel free at any time to send us any questions or concerns or requests for support. We do also have office hours, which I'll show in our subsequent presentation just coming up, that you're able to book with us as the organizers, and that there's different buckets that we're able to help you support. And if there's someone that we need to reach out to via our network, whether it's based in technology or finance, we're more than happy to do so as well. Oh, looks like Angeline. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Damien. Thank you, Robert. Really appreciate you again joining us today. And we'll be sharing that information, your contact information, with all the guests as well. And if there's anything that we can do as organizers as well to support, please do let us know.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks again. Congratulations to everyone. Stay well.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
now we have our overview session for general questions about the application process. And I'll be moving through. I know we only have roughly 10 minutes left here. That's a new view I've never seen. Okay. So today's just a general overview of today's agenda regarding the information session. What is the NurseHack4Health Pitchathon? The key activities, the education that we have created for you, today being one of those sessions. Of course, the support component, the overall pitch flow and mandatory pitch template that we have developed that is available for download on the website, as well as the criteria that the judges will be using in order to select both the 10 finalist teams, as well as the awardees for the grant funding. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, or if you want to just come off of mute, please feel free to do so. All right, so this year's theme is Take It Apart, Fix It, and Build It Better. Unlike the past few years, the NurseHack4Health team is also always innovating, and we wanted to highlight a theme that was of a broader category to really highlight and really dive deep into the various problems that you're experiencing within your health systems. And of course, the NurseHack4Health Pitchathon is presented by Johnson & Johnson, Sansiela Microsoft, with the support of the All-In Wellbeing First for Healthcare and J&J Foundation. So what is the NurseHack4Health? Our mission is to really unleash the power of you nurses as innovative leaders and problem solvers. You are the closest to the most pressing healthcare challenges, and who else is better posed to be able to answer those challenges? Again, the theme, take it apart, fix it, build it better. We're focused on creating a thriving nursing workforce and healthier work environments. And of course, the underlying magic of the NurseHack4Health program is nurse-led innovation, but also design methodology that is based in human-centered design and design thinking, as you may have seen during last week's session with Professor Marian Leary. Diversity, so open to all. There's no cost to submit your application for the NurseHack4Health, and we do seek out interdisciplinary teams because we do recognize that challenges cannot be solved within silos. And again, for the second year in a row, we are open globally to nonprofit health systems. But furthermore, we are a community. We provide support, education, coaching, and volunteers. If there is anything anyone needs as part of the NurseHack4Health application process, we are most certainly here to support you and find and connect you to the individual that can assist you in completing your final applications by the deadline of August 2nd. I'm going to move forward. So what is a pitchathon? Essentially, it's teamwork plus innovation and nurse-led. So empowers the nurse-led interdisciplinary teams to ideate and create solutions and pitch ideas to directly address the thriving workforce and healthier work environment with a goal of receiving up to $150,000 in grant funding to bring the idea to life. And why should health systems participate? Well, one, it solves for the root foundational challenges to create a thriving workforce and healthier work environment. We're soliciting directly from you who are at the front lines to be able to inform us of what these challenges are. Second, to provide a new platform for ideating and generating new relationships and ideas across your organization. You may be in an institution that is deeply involved within innovation, may also have your own innovation centers, where other organizations might just be getting started with their own innovation committee. So this is a great way to start that interdisciplinary collaboration within your institutions. And lastly, the opportunity for finalists to receive up to the $150,000 in grant funding to bring the idea to life. So who's eligible to participate? You must be a health system that is a 501c3 nonprofit or equivalent, or you may partner with a fiscal sponsor. Again, global teams are welcome, so we do recognize that 501c3 status is only in the United States, but each country does have their equivalency, most likely being within a public health system or public institution. These documentations are available on your website or through one of your administrative offices. The nurse-led interdisciplinary teams from the same health system are the ones that will be applying for the application. So this could be composed of not only other nurses or nurse leaders, but nursing students, other health system professionals, healthcare professionals, designers, your executives. We do really push for you including your CEOs, if available, CIOs, CFOs, and other chief level executives within your institution to really receive that buy-in and be able to help you support if you were to receive the grant funding, as well as future commitment. Engineers, developers, IT professionals. So if you do have an IT office or a grant funding office, we do really push to have someone from the team in that capacity, and of course, human resources, but overall, anyone with a passion for innovation. So this is an outline of the application process. We did launch the applications on May 6th. Right now, we are in the phase of our Innovation Academy. Again, final proposals are due on August 2nd, and then finalists will be notified by August 30th of whether or not they have been selected to move forward for the virtual live pitch session. So again, on August 30th, your finalist teams will be selected. And if you are not selected as a finalist, we will be informing you of any type of decision, as well as any other resources that may be available, including future opportunities. The 10 finalist teams will then begin an innovation accelerator. They will be assigned a coach to walk them to pressure test their innovations, help them build out their year one budgets, as well as practice those pitches. And then, excuse me, on October 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have our virtual live pitchathon where the finalist teams will be live pitching, and an awardee or awardees will be granted the funding up to $150,000. So we do request that participants attend one information session. For those of you that are here, this is one of those information sessions. Our next is July 9th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and then following that is July 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, these information sessions are attached to our Innovation Academy workshops. You can see here, we just completed the budget's competitive analysis. The design thinking is now live on the NurseHack4Health website. Our next will be AI solutions for nurses, led by Kathleen McGraw, one of our partners from Microsoft, and Crafting the Perfect Pitch by Hia Nadell, president of Sanciel. All of this information is available on the NurseHack4Health website, so northhack4health.org/schedule. You are able to click the links to register, and you will receive a calendar invite. We also have an asynchronous Innovation Academy that is just launched today for the opportunity to receive 2 CE credits. This is a 3-part asynchronous course that provides you insight into design thinking, crafting the perfect pitch, and essentials of AI for nurses. Just as a part of our disclosure, the Academy provides 2 contact hours upon successful completion of a post-test with a score of 80% or higher. You will also receive your certificate highlighting those contact hours. And again, we'll be sharing more information both on social media as well as via email in regards to the Asynchronous Innovation Academy. Office hours. We do have set up office hours. Teams are able to fill out the form on the schedule page of the website. We do highly request that you provide us some detailed information in terms of your requests. There are some buckets in terms of whether it's general support, technology support, design, etc. But any type of insight that you can provide us would be greatly appreciated to make sure that we can connect you with the correct individual. Of course, we also have these various types of coaches available. So whether you need designers, pitch coach, healthcare support, developers, IT, business support, or engineers, again, we just highly request that you include within the form specifically what your need is, and we will connect you with the correct person. So the pitch flow. 9 key components here. This is the basis of the template that is mandatory for you to submit with your application. The first being the story, the second being the problem statement, the solution. We have the competitive space based off of today's presentation by Professor Salas, who your customer is, your audience, the budget, again, based off of today's session with Professor Morier, the sustainability of your solution, who your team is, and then again, the closing, which reiterates the importance of your solution. We also have here the evaluation criteria for you to review. There are 6 key components. One is the systemic impact that your solution will have, the innovativeness of the idea, the implementation of feasibility, the sustainability, how interdisciplinary your team is, and then of course the outcomes evaluation component. And all of it, and this slide is also included in the template that's available for download on the homepage. So our ask here is really for you to apply. Inspire other people, individuals within your health system also apply. There is no limit on how many teams that each health system is able to submit. Spread the word. Let your networks know about the pitchathon and encourage them also to participate. And of course, to follow us on social media. Share your content and chime in with your thoughts and experiencing by following the hashtag NurseHack4Health. Again, if you have any questions, please visit the NurseHack4Health.org website. There's also the Nursing at J&J website for background information on past awardees, as well as the All In for Healthcare Grantees Spotlight page. And I know we're at time, but if anybody has any question, please feel free to jump off mute. I know that went by rather quickly.
But it was very clear.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Oh, just want to make sure that one of our participants has access to the mic. And again, I'll just drop in the chat here our email address for support in case any question does arise over the weekend. I'd just like to thank you all again for joining us today and wish you a lovely holiday weekend and week ahead.
Thank you.